One thing that is absolutely kind of universal to all humans is that at the bottom line, what we're born with is we're born with two big resources, and that is our time and our energy. Time and energy, that's what we have. We have a certain number of moments that turn into minutes, that turn into hours, that turn into days, that turn into weeks, that turn into months, that turn into years, that turn into decades, that turn into a lifetime. And they're moment by moment, right? And that's the time that we are allotted on the earth. And within that time, that window of every day or every hour, we invest our other big resource that we're given, and that is our energy. The energy in four areas that Jesus referred to, mm, you know, psychiatry and psychology and performance research and all of this kind of, pretty much the categories tend to kind of sound the same. But he called them your heart, your mind, your soul, and your strength. And that we should love God and love each other with all four of those aspects of ourselves. And part of loving God is also being a steward over our lives and being fruitful in creating, our the dreams and goals and things that He's called us to, and purposes and your mission and your family or your relationships or in your career or in your hobbies or whatever that is. So that's time and energy. Now, today I want to share kind of um, the next whatever I would call that, sort of the next step in that. And that is, now that you got your time and energy, what are you going to step in that space of time and energy with? Okay. And we have a lot of different stuff that we can do that with. You can spend it any way you want to. And let me tell you the reality of life. And I've learned this over many, many years, and I'm going to tell you, I'm not perfect at this at all. I'm not perfect at this, but I can promise you, it is how I try to orient my life and work. And I find that when I do, things work a lot better than when I don't. And I also find it being the key to achieving things. Now, I'm not the biggest achiever in the world, but I mean, you guys know, for a lazy guy to write, 40 something books and actually finish them, or, build a healthcare company or whatever. And I'm not like I don't think I'm like a driver type. Um, but when you learn certain principles, it actually helps you to get things done, right? And to accomplish stuff. And I'm sure there's way more I could have accomplished if I had been better at this. But when I've done it, it's worked. And here's the thing, that time, your schedule, your calendar, all of that can be filled with a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff. And there's always more stuff to be done. Always, 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 always. And if you want to make a to do list of all the things that you have to do, I want you to hear that word, have to do. What does have mean? It means I possess them. Okay, so I possess a lot of stuff to do. That's different than I have to do them. See the difference? I have these things to do. That does not mean I have to do them in that sense of the have to, the must, the should. And here is what we know about the most productive, most fruitful, and most successful people. The things that they possess that they could be doing and spending time on and working on are not the totality, or even the set of what they actually focus on and work on. They leave a lot of stuff undone. A lot of stuff undone. A lot of stuff undone that other people would say, well, you gotta, you have to do the dishes before you watch your movie, or you have to, that that's got to be, this project's got to be, it's, you know what? Stephen Covey, a long time ago, made a matrix, a box, and on one side is important, and on the other side is urgent, and put it in 4 boxes. There's a lot of stuff that's really, really urgent, but it's not that important. It kind of, oh, you better do that today. Well, you know, yeah, I realize that, if I don't do it today, it's going to grow another, clump of mold, but it's really not that important. Over here, this thing is much more important. And the key to life, to succeeding, a lot of people will think of, I got to do the important and urgent stuff. Let me tell you the key to life. That's a stupid statement. There's a bunch of keys to life. But one of the biggest keys to success and being fruitful is not the important and urgent. Okay. Now, there are things that are important and urgent that we should do. But here's the big one, it's the important, not urgent. Important, but they're not urgent. What creates urgency? Generally, some impending doom, right? There's a You smell smoke, you got to get out of the house before you go up in flames. It's urgent that you escape. It's urgent that you call the fire department. Okay. Well, let me tell you what's just as important, but it's not urgent. Have you replaced the batteries in the smoke alarms? See, the stuff that will kill us is rarely urgent. High blood pressure, not urgent. Pretty vital. High cholesterol, not urgent at all. There's no impending feeling of doom or something bad's gonna happen. So I can not pay attention to it, but it is important, it's vital. Now let's make it real. How about working on your relationship? How about spending time with your kids? How about working on a project that is not urgent at all? When I write a book, there's nothing urgent about that. But in in my work, for my mission and my dreams, it's really, really important. And what we have to do is create the urgency on the important stuff. How do you do that? Simple, simple word. You've heard it 1,000 times, but I'm going to give you a little different spin on it than you think about. And it comes right from the definition of the word. You know how you do it? You prioritize. Now, everybody go, oh yeah, you got to pay attention to your priorities. Oh yeah, I got some priorities, and my priorities are my key relationships, and my this, that, and the other. Do you know how many people actually live by their stated priorities? Not that many, because you look at their calendar and do a time audit on how they spend their time and their checkbook and what they actually write checks to or invest in or give in, it doesn't match the priorities. We say these things are the most important, but are they reflected in an audit? And that's what I want to talk about, an audit. I wrote about this in my book, The One Life Solution. And basically, it's something I do usually at the end of the year, but I kind of micro do it all the time. But it's called a time audit. And what I do is I look at how I spent basically every hour, and did those hours match what I've said are my priorities? Because, for example, let's say the most important thing for you to do today to move the needle on what you want to accomplish is A, B, or C. But what happens? 46,000 urgent things, emails, people got to be responded to, blah, 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 blah. Well, they're setting the agenda, not you. And so what happens at the end of the day, the end of the week, end of the month, I've got to get this done, but I'm so busy. I just I couldn't because the priorities aren't lived out. So how do we do that? Well, here's how you do it. You believe the definition of the word. You believe the definition of the word. What's the word? Priority. Think of what that word means, where it comes from. What's it made of? The word prior. What is prior? It means simply before. Before. So here's the way, if you're going to be fruitful in your life, your time and energy, back to the key components we were talking about here. Your time and energy must be spent on the priorities, ready for this, before before anything else. And that's how successful people, fruitful people live. Now this is really hard because we got a lot of urgencies clamoring for our time and energy all the time, all the time. But it's still true that this is how we have to do it. And sometimes it's not easy at all. But this is true in every area. And I'll tell I'll just share kind of some of the ways that I like to do this. And again, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I've, been all over the map on this for, lots of different times. But a couple of areas. Um, one of the priorities, the highest priority for our family, financially, for example, um, is our tithe and our giving. So how do you make that a priority? Well, it's simple to make it a priority if when a dollar comes in, you don't do everything else and give at the end. When a dollar comes in, prior, you take the first 10 cents, if you're going to tithe, 15, 20, whatever, you take the first one and you give it. And then the rest is what you live out of. Okay. And I know some people say, well, one day I started practicing this when I was making $3.33 an hour right out of college when I went to work as a psychiatric aide in a hospital. And I've never really seen people say, well, when I start to make more money, then I'll be able to give. They always want to do that. No, it's a priority. And I'm not saying everybody has to tithe. You can make up your own mind on that. What I'm saying is if you're going to give a penny of it, give it first. How about time with your kids? I'll tell you a story. This is one of the hardest things I ever did. When my girls were born, um, I, you know, obviously I want to be a good dad, right? But I'm busy too, right? And priorities and et cetera, et cetera. And this is one of the hardest things I ever did. But when I committed to going to parent toddler preschool with them. In parent toddler preschool, we had them in this little parent toddler preschool they started when they were like almost two. It was 2 hours, 2 hours every Wednesday morning. I said, okay, I'm going to do this. So I sign up for it. I go, and basically I'm in a mommy's group because I was the only dad in it. And so, it's playing little monkeys on singing five little monkeys jumping on the bed and going out and playing with Play-Doh and going to the playground. And then the last half hour, you have a parents group while the kids eat snacks and you talk about problems. Well, I go the first time, it's right in the middle. It's like 9 o'clock on Wednesday morning, just destroys half of a day right in the middle of the week. And so I go and, I got all this stuff clamoring for me. So the next week, on the second week, it was about 8:45. I was about, to leave the office, go pick up Olivia and go. And then I think my publisher or somebody calls and we got this, project and this and I go, oh, I really need to stay. She's 18 months old. She won't even know. We'll go next week. And so I skip it. And then the next week, about 8:45, something comes up that's really, really important and urgent, right? And I go, well, and then I realized, you know what? This is going to be every Wednesday. Every Wednesday, something urgent is going to come. So what I've got to do is, unless a house is burning down, I've got to say, no, that's prior. That goes in my calendar first for anything else. And I'm going to go. I don't care what's going on. I'm going to go. Now, understand there are exceptions, but what I'm saying is, if we organize our life to where your savings comes before your spending, right? You're going on a walk every morning with your spouse, or at the end of the day, or time with your kids, or family, whatever it is, or time that you're going to spend on that project. That goes into your calendar first, and then you fit the other stuff in. But I'm telling you, if you do not live this way, you will get to the end of year after year after year and realizing, well, one day your kids grow up and they're gone and we missed it. Or one day you and your spouse look at each other and say, how did we drift this far apart? We were busy. Or unmet dreams. What about that book you wanted to write? Or that playhouse you wanted to build? Or that new skill, or whatever, that course you wanted to take? Prior, put it in your calendar first, and then fit the other stuff around. Okay.